After all the death and misery brought to us in 2018, I jump into 2019 like this. If I told you that one of the better direct-to-video sequels from Disney is Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time, you'd tell me I was cracked as a glass slipper on midnight. However, coming across this movie, I found it to be quite entertaining. When you hear about the premise, Cinderella fighting the evil stepmother with the powers of the fairy godmother, it seems pretty insane, but anything could happen. Granted, with the track record of Disney direct-to-video sequels, it doesn't seem too promising. For the most part, Disney direct-to-video sequels have the reputation of taking classic stories with conclusive endings and asking what happens after Happily Ever After, for reasons nobody wanted to go into. Granted, many of those reasons having to do with money and cashing in on popular franchises. Much in the same way, Disney deciding to focus their attention from making sequels of classics and just saying, hey, what the heck, we'll just film it in live action. Even the setup of most of these sequels have a similar formula, where instead of one story, it focuses on 3 separate stories tied together with a loose narrative, and in some ways seeming like episodes to a failed TV show. Take for example the sequel that predates this one, Cinderella 2. Practically takes that formula, where the fairy godmother tells the story to the mice despite the fact that the mice have already lived these adventures. So what's the point of them learning about these adventures again? Short-term mouse memory or something? What doesn't suck is that we don't got that formula in Cinderella 3. It attempts to actually have one coherent story. Our movie opens with Cinderella getting ready for her 1-year anniversary since marrying the prince, and her evil stepsister Anastasia taking the fairy godmother's magic wand. I'm telling you, this lady needs to get her stuff together and figure out how to hold on to that wand. She makes Helena Bonham Carter seem like a better fairy godmother, and that's saying a lot. To add insult to injury, Anastasia accidentally turns the fairy godmother to stone and bippity boppity boops her out of this movie. Now you're making Leonardo da Vinci seem like a better fairy godmother, and believe it or not, that actually comes from a Cinderella adaptation. So once the evil stepmother, Lady Tremaine, takes the wand, she turns back time and sets up Anastasia towards marrying the prince, making Drusilla seem like chopped litter in this film. In other words, Anastasia's the only one with the actual character arc, while Drusilla is treated like a henchman to Lady Tremaine. Not exactly fair when it comes to character, but then again I'd argue this is a problem with a lot of Cinderella adaptations. For some reason, it's never both sisters getting a character arc and mostly just one or the other. While all this is going on, Cinderella has to fight her way to getting the prince to fall back in love with her all over again, before he marries Anastasia. Which seems easy enough when she's got the aid of Jack, Gus, the 2 birds, and... wait, where did all the other animals go? What about Bruno the dog, the other mice, the other birds, the horse? What happened to them? Did their contracts go up or something? Cinderella needs to get the prince to fall in love with her all over again after Lady Tremaine puts a charm on the prince, making him forget meeting her in the first place. They set up a plot device where touching the other person's hand determines true love and, get this, breaks spells and charms such as memory loss. I'd say this is charming, especially in one scene where the king accepts Anastasia by talking about his late wife and how they fell in love. Makes you appreciate the characters like the king, who's practically a walking punchline in the first film. But I'm just being honest with you, touching hands just seems like a silly plot device, and the way it's played out in the film does seem like a silly plot device. Then again, I'm talking about silly in a movie where there's talking mice who make dresses. Speaking of evil charms, can we talk about the evil stepmother getting magic? I'm telling you, the lady was evil enough, forcing Cinderella into slave labor. Giving her magic powers only turns her into Maleficent. I know that comparison seems weird, but believe it or not, it's the same voice actress from the first movie. I love how instead of saying simple charms like bippity boppity boo, she's actually conjuring up magic forces from the universe in these big elaborate spells. How insane is that? Whatever happened to a scorned woman feeding off the fortune of her stepdaughter to becoming a full-blown sorceress? Especially a charm that causes her to go backwards, showing a montage of Cinderella getting forced out of the hands of the prince. It's pretty gut-wrenching to watch, to be honest with you. We even get a retelling of the glass slipper scene, where Cinderella witnesses Anastasia getting chosen to go to the castle to meet the prince. And this is coming right out of the scene where she gets locked in the tower, after Lady Tremaine figures out that Cinderella danced with the prince that night. Now, could you imagine how frustrated this poor girl must be? What could only make this worse is if she takes the other glass slipper and destroys it. No. Are you serious? Oh my god, you monster!
Oh, and, clean up that broken glass.
I hope you fall off the Brooklyn Bridge and Spider-Man doesn't get a chance to save you.
Bingo.
That's just one charm she pulls off. I didn't even get to the bit where she captures Cinderella and has her sent to her death. And we're not just talking about a simple execution either. She takes a pumpkin in the same fashion that turns into the carriage and turns it into this rotting corpse from hell with vines and thorns, has Lucifer the cat become this mad coachman. It's pretty insane when you watch it all together. Granted, the animation isn't stellar, but with the animation they have, the visuals are pretty entertaining. Any kid watching this would have to wear a new set of pants. You get the evil stepmother hamming it up in ways we'd want to see her go full-blown evil. We also have a novel attempt at giving the prince more character in this film. Granted, it is a shame how in the first film, you can tell Disney was attempting to find ways to make this classic fairy tale contemporary, but with the cliches and tropes like true love in one night, does bring the film back. In this case, a prince who's limited to 2 scenes in the first film has a lot of time dedicated to his character in this film. In this film, the prince is cunning, has great intentions, and in all purposes, is pretty charming. He's a charming character in this film. The prince finds out how to save Cinderella from the talking mice, which only makes you wonder how Cinderella was able to teach these mice. I always just thought she just taught them how to talk to her, but believe it or not, these mice are talking back to the prince, so it only makes you wonder if she's like some superpowered Jane Goodall or something. Otherwise, things like this make Cinderella 3 an entertaining watch. Granted, for being a direct-to-video sequel from Disney, there is an attempt at telling a good story from people who appreciated the first film and wanted to actually make a good sequel. For what it was worth, it's an entertaining watch. I won't say it's the greatest Disney direct-to-video sequel, but for what it was, I think it's very entertaining and you should go check it out. An okay film for sure. Which brings up a question. If you had the powers of the fairy godmother, what would you do? Comment below and let me know what you think. I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, do all that fun stuff, and thank you for watching this review on the Cartoon Palooza.